Welcome to episode 3 of the Dandy Diaries. And this episode is called Loopy Leading, which, yes, we're using the Loopy training theory I guess, is it theory? I'm not sure what it exactly is. Concept, exactly. That's a good one. To expand on Dandy's, knowledge learning. And that's what we're going to kind of go through I guess it's 3 or 4 sessions that you've had maybe with her.
I think I counted 4 or 5 different shirts. So it's a compilation of progress.
Okay. So we'll hit start.
Yeah.
That we might have to take out, but I thought I muted all of it. So okay. This was probably one of the first attempts where, yeah, she kept crowding into your space. And I don't know how much experience had she had really with leading, just what Mackenzie did, right?
So I can tell from that setup that was one of the first days that she was home because they were both in the same space and I hadn't separated them yet. So that was definitely an early day at my farm. And she really didn't have a lot of halter leading and lead rope leading at Mackenzie's. They did a lot of the liberty leading with the finger pointing and the following. And then I really think that the only like real haltering experience she had in leading was at that clinic, like leading to and from the pasture in the round pen, which I will say, I feel like it was better at that point than it is currently. It was okay then, or maybe it was just a coincidence. And then, leading from the trailer to the pasture when she arrived, and that was bad. She was super budgy and cutting me off and things like that. So I don't think she had a ton of experience with it.
Yeah, and it could be, I remember at the clinic, there wasn't a lot of ground you had to cover, right? She was kind of right next to the round pen.
Right.
Yeah. So it could have been, it felt good because it was short.
And if I think back about it too, I never like to feel like people are waiting for me. So before it was my turn to get her, I would go get her and just kind of like walk her a little bit and let her graze and just kind of like lingering so no one was waiting for me. So if I think back, I wasn't actually trying to get from destination A to B. I was kind of walking and grazing and walking and grazing. And so that might have been why it felt better too.
Right. Okay. I think the next step that we decided was to put a target stick in there and keep the halter on. But I noticed with this one, you dropped it right away. So I'll let you.
There was too much happening in my hands.
Oh.
Yeah. So there was just too much happening. And I was like, okay, I can't do all this at once. And so I just had to drop something. And since she was wearing the halter, it couldn't have been the halter.
Yeah, right.
And then like, I kind of remember, and I see it like on my face as I'm walking toward the camera. And usually when I'm filming my sessions, I'm like talking to you for whenever you review them. And so I was like, yeah, this is too close, but we're doing it. And so it was an attempt.
Right. And then, yeah, the little bit of backing there.
Yeah, she was getting too pussy.
Yeah. And I think that's a loop that we'll add. We did a little bit of that, but not a lot. So that's not something that's in our loopy leading right now.
No. Yeah. Like, see, she's barging me over.
Yeah. Yep. Her head away is great, but her shoulders are not away.
Yeah. I can put my
her
head
shoulders
away,
are with you.
Blast through you.
Yeah. And this was, the next phase where you did the reverse round pen, which came out pretty good, I think, for, using supplies that you have at your place without having to go and invest.
Yeah.
I'm never one to like have to invest in a lot of things. Yeah. I'd rather use what I have.
Yeah. Disclaimer. We've been at this farm like for 30 days total, the horses, myself. So we just use what we have, and it's not always pretty, but I agree. For a makeshift round pen, and I believe this was her first time using a round pen, I thought this went really great.
Yep. I think it really did. I know we had done a couple other setups. Not this one, I don't think was the first, or when I was there, I think it was, you had like the training space and you were going around the outside of the fence. I think it was before you did this, correct?
This was first. Nope, it went reverse round pen, which then I had to take down, and then I separated it into like an arena and then made the training space, but that's all gone now.
Yeah, and it's the same idea,
Concept.
right?
Yeah.
She's on the outside of that so that we use a little bit of management with the reverse round pen, so she keeps her body more straight alongside of you. So, and
yeah,
I thought,
and I mentioned to you that although it's not hot, I did choose to use the same electric fencing that is on the perimeter, just thinking, you know, she's not going to push this, and I feel really safe inside. And I think that worked out really well. She did not push it, and I was safe inside.
right, right. So yeah, we were able to get decent steps, I think, so that she was practicing what we wanted her to practice, which is staying a certain distance, following alongside it. And, you know, we were going to clean up, which, you know, we'll see in the next 2 minutes how that evolves, right? So I think this was a really good next move. And I can't remember if you said that you did do the 10 loops each time, or if it was too much, because I think that would be a lot, depending on how big your space is.
At this point, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, we're going to train. And, you know, that's the other hard part of it, is that when I go up, like, it depends on the weather. It depends on the wind up there. It depends on if the horses are feeling spicy. Like, I kind of go up, and if they seem like they're in a good mood, I'm like, okay, we're going to do something. What are we going to do? So at this point, it was just like, I'm going to try this. And then I did as many as I could before I felt like, okay, that's too much. And that at that point, there was no way it was 10 loops.
Right. And it doesn't always have to be.
Yeah, I think in this scenario, we did 4 in each direction. And I remember talking to you through this video when I had started doing the round pen, excuse me, for whatever reason, I started trying to go the wrong way with me on the offside, and she would not go. So I started the other way and she went, and then I tried the other way again and she did go that time. So I think we did 4 and 4.
Okay, yeah, so that's pretty decent.
Wasn't terrible, yeah.
Right.
Better than 3.
Yes. All right, so let's see. I can't remember how long this segment is, but we can just let it play out.
Yeah, that's okay.
And keep chatting about anything really related to this that you want to share with people, the experience, because I know, one of the things I'll let you jump into, but the ears going back is something that we were noticing, and she's doing it a little bit here too. So
she did it quite a lot at the start, for sure. I was like, what is she doing? Is she trying to run me off? What's happening? I do think it's getting a little better, but I still definitely notice it.
Yeah. And so you are doing that separate, I think, right, with the feeding now too with Sadie, but
yep.
So this is another version, which I think, we brought the mats this day to help keep her straight, so that, because it seemed like if she was following the target, she could still be swinging into your space with her shoulders, whereas the mats, which she kind of knew that behavior a little bit, would keep her more on track, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So you were going back and forth between kind of that little round penny type of fencing there in the regular round pen, let's call it, which is something, you know, we don't do. So we don't round pen our horses. It's not something in the repertoire of training to chase them, and you can see everything we're doing here. And people who are familiar with this type of training, it's all about luring them, I guess, from the front, having them target from the front, whatever. It's all a leading type of behavior instead of pushing.
Yeah. This day was not my best day. So this was just Friday. And so we started with the mats, and this was her first time moving from mat to mat to mat, and even like not just standing at one mat. So this was her first time with all those things. And I had started on the other side of these mats, like basically just going back and forth. And then I switched to the other side, and I realized this is just not as good. And I went back over to the side we had been practicing, and that seemed to be better. So That was
Yeah,
surprising
sometimes.
to me.
What was that?
It was surprising to me that she liked it or seemed to like it better with me being on just the one side of the mats versus sticking to her main side.
Right. Yeah, and whatever works, really. It doesn't matter what side. You should be able to lead your horse really from both sides. It's just we all get used to the near side, as it's called, right?
The near side. I couldn't remember what it was called.
Yeah, the offside and the near side.
And the near side.
I don't know why it's
Called the right
offside,
side and
but
the wrong side. I'm
and
not
and it, yeah, and it all has to do with the days of the cavalry when we wore our swords on the left side of our bodies too. That was the way you got on your horse. So, but unnecessary now. And this I thought was, she's a very smart horse because there's some horses take a long time to stand on one mat, let alone go from one mat to the next to the next. And I know
agree.
the target sticks there, right? But still, she's following the mats.
I'm glad you said that. So this was our first day with this on Friday, and I thought it was kind of rough. I kind of felt like bad that I didn't have better stuff for you to film. I was like, this is not going very well. But then today when I went out to the field, I was actually on my way to get Sadie. I was not intending to play with Dandy, but she just went and one of the mats was peeking out from under, because I closed the round pen when we're not there.
Yep.
And the mats was peeking out and she walked over to it and started stomping on it. And I was like, oh, she wants to play. So I did get the mats out, did not have my target stick. So I parked her on one mat, had her stay on the mat for a 3-2-1, and then went to get the other mats and line those up and just did the finger leading to the mats. And she did really well. She stayed off me. She led to all 4 mats up and back and then parked on it while I cleaned up. So, I mean, even just for 2 small short sessions of introducing the mat, I thought that was really impressive.
Yep. Yep.
And I tried to get that on video, but as you saw, it was just like our heads floating in the video. It cut off our bottom.
Yeah, I tried to watch that and I'm like, well, I can't
really
follow what's going on. Right. I just, like you said, see 2 heads floating around.
But our 2 heads were far apart. So that's
Yes.
what matters.
That's true. Yeah. So probably the next, and you can let me know what you think too, but maybe the next loop, I guess, right now that we have this one where she is going back and forth on the mats, I would, there's going to be some variation, but I would say it's clean, right? She's going straight along as best she can, and she's not coming into your space. This is the whole reason we're doing this, to teach her proper distance. So I would say is the next step, are you comfortable with, and this, I just did a close-up so people could see the mats a little bit better, but and also her stepping under herself. So I kind of just went off of what I was going to say as your next step is what I think, but that little movement right there is lateral work and you don't have a halter on her. So I thought that was kind of cool that you could do that, with just your target stick and the mats. So, but I guess the next, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing that I like that you can get so much done at Liberty with the tools.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. So with the next steps, it looks like we're done with what we had to show as far as the training videos, and we're doing this podcast kind of on top of it. But would you say your next step would be going back to trying with the halter and lead? Because I know you've been working on the haltering and she's getting really good at that too. Or how do you feel about it? Because I know it's, got to be a comfort level too.
I think we could definitely, especially after today's experience, we could definitely eliminate the target stick and work on the mats with the haltering. I was going to ask you about this though. So today when we did the mats, it was kind of like what she did the other day, where she might not be understanding the concept of, we touch this mat, we move on to the next one. We touch this one, we move on to the next one. Like, it was, you didn't see the video, so it's only funny to me. So she walks up to we started on the far side of the field, like basically where we're looking at the camera, and she walked to the first mat, and she walked to the second mat, and she walked to the third mat, but I didn't have my target ball.
Oh,
to turn her around. So I asked her to wait on that mat while I went to go get the target ball that's in the field. And instead of turning herself around or coming to find me, she backed up all the way up the mat and then just started pawing the last one. So I didn't know if we should work on that stimulus control that you talked about, where we only reward the quietly standing on the mat. Like, how do we eliminate the aggressive pawing when she's like, why am I not getting the treat? I'm on the stupid mat.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Because I don't want to get next to her without the target, like separating us, and have her start like pawing and maybe accidentally kick me or something. So I didn't know how to clean that up.
I think I would go back to maybe just one mat, like don't have any other ones out there so she can't. And as much as you can, and I know we don't want her to keep pawing at it, but she was doing that with me too when we were first starting this session. She was just pawing at the mat quite a bit. And I just kind of ignored it until she stopped. So that's what I was doing. But of course, there's other ways to do it. You can just put it out there as soon as she steps on it, click and treat that. I would play around with it, I think, because I don't know for sure what's going to be best. Because when we were doing this session, she had pretty much stopped pawing the mats. She was just walking and then standing on them. So it could have just been a little bit of frustration, maybe. And I don't know.
And it might have been because I went to do something and she was like, why did you leave me standing here? Yeah, I think when you come, we should work on this for sure. And you can help me figure that out, because you know me, I struggle with that. I struggle with waiting, letting them figure it out, not repeating my cues, and ignoring things. Like, I'm always like, how do I redirect this? How do I fix this? I have a really hard time just letting them figure it out. So,
and she's a baby. She's a little bit more busy. I think apt to get frustrated and a little scary sometimes with when she gets frustrated, right?
It is scary, but she's so sweet, but she's also scary.
Yeah. And it's just, she wants to get clicked.
She just wants to get it right. And she wants the treat, and it's understandable.
Right. Yeah. So definitely that's what we'll do. There's no rush, but I know you were saying you were able to walk her better through the field. And I don't know, did you have a halter on her that day, or
the day that you came over?
Yeah. And you said you had walked her through and she seemed to be pretty good.
Yeah, so I had walked up to the top gate, to the gate near the training area where we were doing mounting block game, haltered her, she self-haltered, walked her all the way through the pine tree and then behind the shelter before we got to that narrow hallway. And she was like, oh, this is too much, so I'm going to stop here. So that was quite a distance to walk her on the halter, and she did really well with it. So I thought that was, all the things are definitely helping.
Oh, good. Yeah, I guess that's what I was curious about. And so are you still doing your 3, 2, 1 click treat 3? Like, is that how you're moving down from A to B, whatever distance that is?
Yeah.
Just to keep it the same.
Yeah. I'll do one of two things whenever I'm moving her. I gotta say, they have gotten really good at coming when they're called. So a lot of times
that.
I don't have to go get them very often. So, if I have to move her, I do one of two things. I'm either just going to use my target ball and walk 3, 2, 1 treat, or I'm going to do the lead rope in my hand with the target ball. I'm really trying to be more consistent with that, because I feel like when she's following the target and I've got the lead rope, like I was able to experiment the other day with a little bit of pressure, like not pulling, but a little bit of that guiding pressure. Hey, we're moving, and this snap is jiggling at your throat. And she just was like, okay, I'm getting my target ball. So I'm kind of focusing on that to keep working toward the halter and lead rope. I think I told you the other day, there was a point where Sadie just wasn't cooperating, and me and Dandy had gotten too far. And then she was just like, wait, what's happening? I'm done. And she was like trying to pull back, and I had the target, or not the target, I had the lead rope, and I was like, I do not want to get in a pulling war with you, so you can just go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't want to do that. That's never a
I'll
good
go get Sadie and you'll follow, and that's fine.
Yeah, you can get your arm pulled right out of its socket. Not
She's
fun.
big. She's big for a baby.
Yeah.
I think.
So yeah, I thought there was a lot of progress with our strategy. And I'm not sure, who's going to be listening to this, but if they aren't necessarily working with horses or young horses, but leading is a very important skill because you're standing next to this huge animal that weighs 1,000 pounds plus. So it has to be a very respectful leading. And this is where, I'd even try to tell my dog training clients, like, there's ways to teach leading and you need to get it, whether it's a little tiny animal or a big one. So if we can do it with a horse, you could definitely do it with a dog or any other small animal. But this is a critical foundation training. So, and it's kind of it wasn't our first few foundation behaviors that we were training. So leading is kind of getting us into the next set of what we want to train. So we'll probably have to make a list of that. I think it'd be good to have something so people can follow along and say, okay, these guys did these 4 things. Now they're doing these next ones. And everybody has their own strategy, I guess, as to what they should train first.
Yeah, but, I think leading is a highly underrated skill, and people take it. I know I do, right? I just go get Sadie and I just grab her and I just walk on and I don't even pay attention, and I could be on my phone and walking, and she's just such a good leader. And then you just kind of not take advantage, but you just kind of take it for granted until you have a horse who's not such a good leader, and you're like, what is this? This is the worst.
Yeah. Well,
it's scary, right? It is scary when you're trying to walk and they're cutting you off and they're budging you, and there's maybe a tree or another horse and you're just not in control. It's not a good feeling to not be in control, especially if you're a control freak like me.
And me. But I mean, there's some educated horses, older horses that are ridden a lot and they don't lead well either. So it really depends what people consider good. So that's all over the board, I guess.
My gold standard is Sadie. Sadie's a great leader.
Yeah. So that, you have a model for that, and that's what you want to shape in this new horsey.
That's what I want.
Yeah. So I think that's what we wanted to cover. This was going to be kind of a short podcast, and kind of a combo. Next time we'll get into probably the next set of 3 or 4 behaviors that we want to train, which obviously the stationing or mat we covered the first time. Leading is a new one. And then we'll come up with, I think haltering would probably go along with that. And you're already working on that as well. And then we can come up with a few more just to keep things moving along, right?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, I guess we want to thank everybody for joining us today. And be sure to like and subscribe and keep following us so that you get all of our latest adventures.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Good night. Bye.